Hi, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining today. I'm Sam Rome. I'm the awards manager at Brandon Hall Group, if you haven't met me yet. So I manage all the awards programs we have here, help applicants through the process. And today we're really going to be focusing on different strategies and techniques that organizations have used to successfully win applications, things that have worked, things to kind of pay attention to when you're going through the application process. And specifically, we're going to be focusing on HCM for 2026 this year. That application is going to open up January 5th for submission, and the deadline will be April 10th. So I'll just go ahead and get started. We will be recording this webinar as well and posting it on Braden Hall Group's YouTube account, as well as our awards resource tab, which is new. We just created that within the past couple of months, and we'll be putting all of the webinar recordings and other award resources available to you on that website tab. All right. So again, for today, what we're going to do is talk about the HCM Excellence Awards a little bit, the program as a whole, talk about who should enter this program. We'll look at a few winning examples and things that organizations have done in the past. Again, we'll go across bronze, silver, gold winners, and kind of just dive in depth a little bit there. Talk about some of the benefits of participating in the awards. And then if you have any questions, you can feel free to put those in the chat throughout the webinar, and I'm happy to address those at the end if there are any. I'll also add my email address at the end of this presentation, just in case you want to email me with specific questions about your application or program. All right. And then for 2026, we do have 4 awards programs. The first one is going to be that HCM program we're talking about today. Again, that opens up January 5th of this year officially. We do actually have all of the 2026 submission forms up on the website for download now. So if you wanted to go ahead and start looking at some of those, you can definitely download those. With our HCM program, every application is specific to the category you submit for. So you do want to make sure you're paying attention to which category you're submitting, download that correct form, and then look at that because those criteria will be specific to that category. And then we'll announce those winners in August of 2026 on the 13th. Our technology, education technology, and excellence in action programs, those all run in the second half of the year in the fall. We do still have the announcements for 2025 coming up here. For technology and education technology, that'll be in early December, and excellence in action will also be in early December as well. Then those will all open up for submission again in 2026, and you can find these dates down here as well as on our website. And again, we're happy to share this presentation with you afterwards, which does have links to all these specific site pages. Okay, and then starting with our HCM program, here's that launch date and deadline again. The cost per submission is $575, so depending on how many categories you're looking to submit for, that will be the fee. And then when we do our announcements, we do break that up into 3 different webinars where we recognize winners of the program. If you're to submit jointly and you were to win an award, we would recognize both organizations, or if there's 3, all of those in our announcements as well. Okay, and then a little bit of background about the HCM programs. It has a dedicated focus on entries from corporate training, learning, talent, HR, DEI, sales enablement, and those kind of go with the program areas you'll see on the website that you can submit under as well. You can either enter alone or with a helping organization. If you are a solution provider, you do need to enter with a corporate client for this awards program. But it is a great program where you can really showcase the success of your program that you've created throughout the year or previous to this year. You can use case studies, success stories, and it really sometimes helps if you enter jointly because you're able to show those examples from a client where it's worked really well. Great. And then for this webinar today, we're going to specifically be focusing on learning and development, the category Best Unique or Innovative Learning and Development Program. This category was chosen for this webinar because we do have quite a few applicants in it every year. So we do have a lot of information and examples that I'm able to share with you all today that I think will be helpful when you're kind of going through trying to figure out how you want to strategize and create your application for this year. And this category, Best Unique or Innovative Learning and Development Program, is for a written description of a workplace learning program that is innovative and drives a positive organizational outcome. Okay, with this specific application, these are the instructions that you'll want to keep in mind. These are more about, formatting the text, how you want to lay out your application, asking that you keep it in a Word document, size 12. So you just want to make sure you read through those when you're submitting and try to keep those in mind. Point number 13 is important. So if there's any confidential material in your application that you wouldn't want to be published, if you do click yes to publishing permission, you'll want to just make sure you highlight that in red, and that makes it stand out to our editorial team to remove that from your submission if you were to allow us publishing permission. If not, that's a moot point. And then for this category, there's 5 main judging criteria, which is standard across all of our awards programs. There's always going to be 5 criteria. For the best unique or innovative learning and development program, we're going to have fit to the needs, design of the program, delivery of the program, measurable benefits, and overall. And I'll break these down a little bit further as we go through this presentation today. Okay, so starting off with that first criteria, fit to the needs. This area is where you'll be able to describe the business conditions and business needs that led the organization to create the learning program. You also can provide an overview of the learning program and the impact that it's had on your organization or client organization that it was used for. So this is a real example of information that was submitted for this category. And this section is important because it really sets the stage for describing the business conditions, the business environment. Where is this program being used and implemented? You want to be able to set that up for the judge panel to see. The more that the judge panel can understand, the better. So you want to make sure you really spend some time here just talking about your organization, how it's working, what was the need for this program? What really made that question come about to its creation? Some key takeaways from this gold award-winning example. It's very clear and concise, the way this entrant did their submission. They clearly defined their program and what the program's purpose was. You can provide examples of benefits to the creation of the program, so things that came out of it that really helped your organization, maybe helped your client, your employees, in whatever aspect that may be. And remember, this is the beginning of your application, so you really want to make sure you're setting that stage well, you're starting that narrative of how your program came about, and you're really focusing on what that need was for it and how it's addressing the needs within the business itself. Okay, and then moving on to criteria 2. This area is used to discuss how the learning program was developed, what was unique or innovative about this program. That question is going to be specific to this category we're looking at today, so you want to pay attention if you're looking at other categories to submit for 2026. That question will change throughout the forms. But you'll really want to be able to discuss how the learning program was developed here. So this is a section where you can be a little bit creative, which you may have had to be when designing your program. So some of our organizations, like you can see here, will use graphics and really show, the progression of how their program came about, how it was finalized, where there's obstacles and challenges that you faced when designing your program. Maybe you created a certain way that didn't work, you had to go back. Being able to explain those steps and the things that you overcame and those challenges to the judge panel really helps them get a comprehensive view of your program and where it started and where it is now. And that can also be shown later on when you get to that measurable results section, how those results may have changed as a result of the design. So again, I kind of outlined some of those obstacles and questions over here. We want to also mention, what was really innovative about your program? What's unique about your program? For this category, another thing to keep in mind specifically is that it does not have to be a program that's never been made before. It doesn't have to be something brand new, but you do want to make sure that there's an aspect of it that is unique from other awards programs and other things in the industry that you're able to kind of highlight here. In this example as well, I wanted to point out something that stood out to the judge panel was highlighting the type of approach that the organization took when making this program. If you're able to break down if it was steps, what kind of approach you took with it, that's a great way to also explain to the judge panel how that design of your program came about and how it's working, what are its strengths, what maybe were its weaknesses that you had to work on throughout. Those are all great things to highlight in your application as well. Okay, and then here's just a couple other examples of criteria 2. Graphics are a great way to be able to show the judge panel that visual representation of the design of your program and how it's working. And these are not only limited to criteria two. Graphics are great to include throughout your application if you have them. It really can only benefit your application in showing the judge panel a little bit more direct insight into how it's actually working, what it's looking like, what maybe that user experience looks like when your program is being utilized. Okay, and then moving on to criteria three. This area is used to discuss how the learning program was delivered to its audience. You're going to describe any challenges or obstacles that may have been encountered and how they were overcome, and what was the process for addressing change management. So with this criteria, you're really going to want to discuss how your program was delivered to the intended audience. With that, you want to be able to define your target audience. So I chose an example here of a gold winning entry that they did this very well, where they defined, who their target group was, how that target group, how the program was delivered to them. If there were multiple different types of deliveries that were used before one was determined, you can also outline that process and that story of your program to kind of show what worked, what didn't work. And that's really great to be able to include in your application. Again, it kind of makes your application stand out to the judge panel that they're able to really see the full story and progression of your program. Were there challenges to delivering your program? How were these overcome? Again, that's something that we brought up in criteria too. It is a good question to ask yourself as you're going through this application. I think that throughout the creation of any program, and development of any program, there's going to be things that come up. It's not always going to go smoothly. So you want to be able to highlight those and really talk about the strengths and benefits, and the impact that's come out of that process. And then you can also talk about things like what did you learn throughout all of this about your program, about your organization? Were there key takeaways that you want to mention to the judge panel as well? And did the delivery of your program change as a result of maybe the first method you used of deliverance? Okay, and then here's another different way to be able to present that delivery of the program. Again, this is a visual representation, but talking about the audience, the topics that were used, maybe the length of that delivery, how long does it take for the audience to complete your program? Are there questions involved? What method of delivery is being used? These are all great things to highlight, and having visual representations helps enhance your application and really show that impact and the reach of your program. Okay, criteria four is going to be the measurable benefits. This is one of the most important sections of the application. So you do definitely want to make sure you're spending some time here. The measurable benefits, you can present this in many different ways. So there's not one straight answer to the best way to be able to answer criteria four. You're going to use this area to discuss the measurable benefits as seen by the organization. How was the ROI impact of the learning program measured and what were the results? What was prioritized? What was important and how was it defined? So we'll take a look at a couple of ways that organizations have successfully presented results. But this is really the section where you're taking, the story of your program that you've just gone through and you've really explained to the panel, and you're putting that data to back it up and support it. Okay, so as you can see in this example that I pulled from an award-winning application, they did use graphs to be able to show this. Again, visuals are a great way to engage the judge panel, to engage your audience with your application. And you do want to make sure you're spending some considerable time here. Again, this is where you're able to really back your program with data. And there's a lot of different ways to present your data. In the next slides, I'll show you a few more examples of how organizations have successfully done this in the past. And this is a section where you can really highlight all the achievements and successes of your program. So whatever you want to include, you can. Something unique about our HCM program is that you also have the option of uploading additional materials to enhance your application. So that's outside of this submission form. You can include URLs that can link to videos, that can link to websites, whatever you want to be able to share with the judge panel. If you have maybe a PDF walking through your program or of results from your program, you can share those things too. We do see a lot of companies use that section to refer to the measurable benefits because you're able to kind of include more information than the submission form might allow you to. Of course, you want to make sure you explain how you measured your results, and go through that process a little bit for the judge panel as well, because it's one thing to present your results, but being able to explain really how you measured them, what was that process, what did that look like, that's really important to backing up your data as well. What measurements were important and were prioritized with your program when you did collect all of this data? And how was this importance identified? Those are some questions you want to make sure you're asking yourself when you do go through the application process. Okay, and then here's just a few more examples. I did want to include testimonials. That's a great way to be able to show results of your program. It's a great way to be able to allow employees, leaders, people that have actually gone through the program to really voice what that impact that it had on them was. How was that experience? Did that impact their roles in the organization? Things like that, depending on the category you're submitting for. But that's a great way to be able to really show the judge panel the impact that your program has had. And that's going to be in qualitative data. And then, of course, you can also include quantitative. So percentages, and if you've done surveys about your program, if you have feedback reports, things like that, that you're able to share as well. You can either write that out, you can combine that with a graphic. Those are just a few of the ways that we've seen organizations really successfully present their results, and that have won awards as a result. Okay, and then criteria 5, this is going to be the last section of your application. This is where you're able to provide a summary of key findings. So you're going to want to talk about what lessons were learned and what is the next or future outlook. This section is really great because you're able to take this program that you have that's doing really well, that you told the story of it, you backed it with results, and then you're able to kind of take a look at, what are those next steps? Where can this program go? Where could its reach go? And you're able to really discuss all of that in this section. Okay. Again, so this is where you can provide a summary of your program and your findings. Some things that you can discuss are lessons learned, what worked well, what maybe didn't, areas of improvement for your program, what made your program possible. What were the most important things that went into it that really made it be the program that it is today. Future outlook, and you want to try to leave a lasting impression as well. In this section, it is the last one that the judge panel is going to be reviewing. And then this was a section I pulled from an applicant that did win a gold award for their program, where they did highlight some of these things. What were some of the strengths of the program, what went really well throughout the process. And that can be talking about any of the criteria of the application, or maybe some new information that you hadn't mentioned yet, but that you do want the judge panel to be aware of before they wrap up your evaluation. You can highlight things, areas of improvement, what you could have done better, and then what made it possible, as I mentioned before. Okay, and this is another way that an organization that did win a gold winning award really made their application stand out, is they not only, explain some of these things that we just discussed in that section, but they were able to show a graphic to go with it, of the growth of their program and the progress of their program. And that's a great thing to also show the judge panel, that will kind of make your application stand out to them as well. That future look and that next step are something that you want to try to focus on in criteria 5, and it is something that a lot of applicants do miss in their applications. So just something to keep in mind when you're pulling together your submission for 2026. All right. And that really wraps up the examples and things for the submission process for this category. There's a lot of other resources that we have implemented this year with the Brandon Hall Group Awards, specifically that I'm offering, such as office hours, these webinars. Office hours is something I do every other Friday, where I host about 30 minutes for applicants to pop in and ask questions. And I do that year round every other Friday. So I will be happy to share that link with you if you're interested. And then these webinars will continue. The next one I'll be doing will be on December 16th. And that one is going to be walking through the entire application process from start to finish, as if we were filling it out together. So that one I think is great if you're a new time applicant, if you maybe haven't done it before, or if you just want to be able to see kind of what that writing process looks like of the application. Feel free to join that one. We'll also be posting it to our YouTube and our awards resources page as well. And before we do wrap up this webinar for today, I want to go over some benefits of participating in the Brandon Hall Group Awards. So when you do participate for this program, HCM, our announcements are going to be August 13th. That's the first date that anyone will know the results of their applications. We do that in an online virtual announcement. And that's when you'll be able to see your slide, any award or awards that you've won for that year will be recognized. Following that, we'll send you an email communications where you can find your award credentials. So digital badges, certificates, press release guides, plaque ordering information, all those important details that you'll want about your awards, we'll share with you following the end of those announcements on the 13th. That same day, we do a lot of social media posts. We do a press release from Brandon Hall Group. We do a few of those. And then if you do a press release, we are happy to repost that as well. Some other things that can come out of being an award winner are speaking opportunities at our conference the following year. So for example, for 2026, if you were to enter and win that conference we have in 2027, we honor all of the award recipients from that previous year. We do have a whole night dedicated just to that, and we hand out trophies, call you up on stage. It's a lot of fun, and it's a great chance to really meet other award winners, and kind of see, what has worked out for them in this industry, with their programs, and kind of just bounce ideas and network a little bit there as well. And then we also have podcast opportunities that come out of this. So a lot of our award winners will do podcasts with our COO, Rachel Cook, where you can really talk about this award, and why you were recognized for it. All right, and then if you weren't to win, we still do provide you a certificate, and with all of our applications winning or not, we are happy to provide you feedback. Just let our team know, and we're happy to send that over to you so that you can kind of see what the judge panel saw when they were looking at your application. All right, and that's going to wrap it up for today. If there's any questions in the chat, I'll go ahead and answer those. Let me just take a look. Yeah, looks like there's not any at this time. So again, you can feel free to email me directly if you'd like. I'll go ahead and put my email in the chat. Or you can email awards@brandonhall.com. And we're happy to answer any questions. And we definitely look forward to all of your submissions this year. So thank you so much for joining me today. We will have this recording up within the next couple of days on our awards resources page, and we'll share the link with you directly as well. So thank you everyone for your time today, and good luck next year.